Welcome to the lecture series of hydraulic structures. This is the first session on hydraulic structures. So before going into the subject, let us see what is there in the syllabus of this particular subject. So I'll share the content. Let me go to slideshow. Yeah, this is the syllabus. So you have gravity dams in module 1 and you have earth dams in module 2 and spillways in module 3, cross drainage works in module 4 and canal regulation works in module 5. And let's take up the module 1 now. And in module 1 we'll be discussing about the gravity dam. In this first session of module 1, I'll be discussing about the gravity dam and what are the forces acting on the gravity dam. So let us see. You can see this picture of the gravity dam. You can see the reservoir here. Dams are constructed to save the water, okay, to reserve the water. And the water, when it reaches the full reservoir level, the extra water will pass through this spillway, and then it will reach the downstream side. So this is the upstream side and this is the downstream side. And gravity dams are usually constructed of concrete or stone masonry. So this is a typical cross section of a gravity dam. You can see here, the upstream face is vertical up to a certain height, and then there is a batter here. There's a batter here. This is the upstream side where the water is stored. So this batter is provided for additional stability of the dam. So this why this additional material is provided, we will discuss in detail when we take up the stability analysis of gravity dam. And this is the base width of the gravity dam from here to here. This is the base width. So this is the heel and this is the toe. The toe is on the downstream side and the heel is on the upstream side, okay. And this is the downstream face which is inclined like this, and a drainage is provided to remove the water which is seeping through the body of the dam, which will cause damage to the structure. So the drainage galleries are provided to remove the seepage water. This is a drainage gallery, and this is the top width of the dam, and this is the bottom width of the dam, and this is the height to which the water is stored, and this is the maximum water level. When the water rises above this maximum water level, it flows through it flows to the downstream side. That is how the dams are normally designed. So before going to the design of dam, we'll see what are the different forces acting on the dam. You need this to do the stability analysis also. You should know what are the forces acting on the dam and what are their nature, where do they act, at what distance from the heel or toe. You have to know that to take in order to take the moments, and also their nature, like whether they are resisting moments or whether they help in stability of the dam or they destabilize the dam. That is what we have to actually see. So depending upon the situation, the dam is subjected to the following forces. These are the four important forces the dam is subjected to. One is the water pressure. I'll just explain in brief and we'll take each one in detail later. Water pressure is the pressure which is due to the water on the upstream face of the dam, which I've already shown in the diagram. And the earthquake forces. These earthquake forces will vibrate the body of the dam as well as the water in the reservoir, which will create pressure on the dam. Then the silt pressure. Silt get deposited on the upstream side because of the water coming from the catchment area. It carries silt, and this silt pressure also acts on the upstream side of the dam. And next is the wave pressure. The wave pressure is due to the waves which are generated on the surface of the water because of wind. This wave pressure is a function of wave height, and that depends upon the velocity of the wave. So all those details we will see later on. And the ice pressure in cold countries, there will be ice on the surface of the water, which will melt due to temperature changes, and during melting it expands and it will cause pressure on the upstream face of the dam. And self weight of the dam, this is very important, which will be acting downwards. This helps in the stability of the dam. It will resist all these forces, all this pressure or the forces by the self weight. The gravity dam is designed in such a way. And then the water pressure is divided into two categories. One is the external water pressure and the water pressure below the base of the dam. This is also called as water pressure below the base of the dam is also called as the internal water pressure. So first let us take the external water pressure. So external water pressure is the water pressure because of the water on the upstream side. That is, the water stored in the reservoir will create a water pressure on the face of the dam. So let me take the pointer. Yeah. This is the upstream phase. So water pressure will be created on the upstream phase here. The pressure distribution you can see here. The water pressure is 0 at the top, and here it is gamma W into H. This you have studied earlier, where gamma W is the unit weight of water, which is 9.81 or 1000 kg per meter cube. So this is the pressure intensity at the bottom. This is the pressure intensity. The variation is triangular variation. Therefore, the total pressure P, the total force, it is not the pressure, the total force is due to this area of this triangle. The unit width of the dam is taken. Dam will be running in this particular direction, the longitudinal direction. We will take 1 unit length along the longitudinal direction and design the dam section. So, therefore, the total pressure P will be area of this triangle. Area of this triangle is half of gamma W into H is the base into height is the height into height H. So that will come to half gamma W H square, which will be acting at a distance of H by 3 from the base, which will be acting at a distance of H by 3 from the base. So next, we will take the case 2. When the upstream side has batter and there is no water on the downstream side. So this is the batter. This is the batter, or the upstream side is inclined but in the previous case, as you have seen, it was vertical. You see this was vertical, and here this is inclined. A batter is provided. That I already told you that the batter is provided to improve the stability of the dam. So here there are two forces. One is due to horizontal pressure, the other one due to this weight of this water column on the sloping surface. Weight of this water column on the sloping surface. So this pressure which we have calculated, it is the same thing. That is, the intensity is gamma W into H. Height is the H is the height of the water in the reservoir, and it will be acting at a distance of H by 3, half of gamma W H square. And this one, to calculate this vertical pressure, there are two, you have to divide this into two components. One rectangle like this and the other one triangle like this. So due to this rectangle, you take this height as H2, and this height, if you take it as H1, that is height from the base to this sloping edge, and the height of the vertical edge is taken as H2. So I have calculated the vertical force PV in the next slide, which I will show you here. So one is the horizontal pressure, which is half of WH you can take, or gamma H also you can take, into height of water in the reservoir, WH square by 2. This is acting in the horizontal direction, whereas P2, which is acting in the vertical direction because of the water column at the top, it is B into H2. That is, this if this is taken as B, if this width BC is taken as B into H2, this area B into H2, and if this is H1, it is again half of H1 into B, half of H1 into B into W. So P2 acts through the CG of the water column resting on the sloping upstream side. So, and you can see here, in the previous case there was no water on the downstream side. Here there was no water on the downstream side. So I told you water will come to the downstream side when the water level exceeds the maximum water level in the reservoir. So the water which gets collected on the downstream side is called as a tail water. This is a tail water. So if you take the height of the tail water is h dash, and here also the surface is sloping, therefore there is a triangle here. There will be two forces here as in this case, same way, but the pressure in due to tail water is opposite to the direction of the pressure due to the water in the reservoir. So this will actually have a, this is like a factor of safety. This is like a factor of safety. Therefore if you leave this, there is no harm in this, because it is a stabilizing force. So you see here, this is h dash by 3 acting at a distance of h by 3 is the water pressure in the horizontal direction, which is equal to half of gamma h1 dash square. Here it is, h is the depth here, h dash is the depth here, so it is h dash square. And here due to this triangle PV dash you can calculate, that will be you calculate this distance, half of this base into height, and it will be acting at a distance of base by 3 here. This will be acting at a distance of b by 3. So that is the tail water pressure, tail water pressure if the tail water is existing. Okay, so water, when next is the internal water pressure, or it is also called as uplift pressure. So we discussed about the external water pressure. There were two cases in that. First case is when the dam face was vertical like this, and the second case is when the dam face is inclined and when there is tail water. As I told you, you can neglect this because because it can be like a factor of safety, because it is a stabilizing force. It reduces the horizontal earth pressure, which is good for the dam. Okay, next. So coming to the water pressure below the base of the dam or uplift pressure. So what is this? Where is the water below the base of the dam? So if there is water above the base of the dam, there will be head of water at the base of the dam, which will be equal to the height up to which the water is stored. So that I've shown in the diagram in the next slide. You can see here. So this is the water head. This is a water head. If H is the water here, you can see because of this is a horizontal pressure of water, whereas this is the head of water which is below the dam, which will also have an intensity of gamma W into H. This water which is present below the dam will enter the pores and cracks, and which will exert internal pressure in the pores and cracks within the body of the dam and within the foundation, and also at the contact between the dam and the foundation. So this will cause internal pressure which will create damage to the dam structure. So and this water which seeps through these cracks and pores will enter this pores and cracks, will try to seep through the body of the dam. The water seeps through the body of the dam and tries to emerge onto the downstream side. So water which goes in this direction enters the body of the dam, it tries to seep through the body of the dam to the downward side. So this seeping water will create a hydraulic gradient between the upstream and the downstream side of the dam, and this hydraulic gradient causes this vertical upward pressure, which is also called as the uplift pressure, so this is the vertical uplift pressure. So there is the intensity here is gamma W into H. This is because of the height of water H above the in the reservoir, and this is gamma W into H dash. This is because of the tail water H dash on the downstream side. So this is the pressure diagram below the base of the dam, and it will be in the vertical direction. See, because it is in the vertically upward, it is in the vertical direction. It is vertical, but in the upward direction. What about weight? Weight will be in the downward direction. So this is opposite to that of the weight. So it will reduce the weight of the dam. It will reduce the weight of the dam. So we also know that the weight of the dam is the main force which causes stability of the dam. Therefore, when the weight reduces, the stability reduces. So what is that we have to do? So we have to somehow reduce the uplift pressure. We have to somehow reduce the uplift pressure. There are different ways of reducing the uplift pressure by providing the drainage galleries like this. By providing the drainage galleries. If a drainage gallery is provided like this, the water which enters into the pores and cracks of the dam body will get collected in this drainage and it will be drained out. It will not seep through the body of the dam, causing a hydraulic gradient, which in turn causes uplift pressure. You can see that the uplift pressure has reduced here because of the presence of the drainage gallery. This uplift pressure Pu is given by WH into B by 2. That is, in this case, if it is 0. So if the distribution is like this, I'll just take a pen. So, sorry. Let me erase this. Okay. So, if there is no tailwater, if there is no tailwater, this is how the distribution will be. Where this will be equal to WH. This same thing, whatever it is, W or gamma W, whatever it is, this is W into H. And this is 0 because there is no tailwater. I'm discussing when there is no tailwater. So what is this dimension? This dimension is width B. That is the base width of the dam. The base width of the dam. So this will be the pressure distribution here. If there is no drainage, gallery, and if there is no tailwater, so the uplift pressure is given by this equation. So Pu is equal to half of WH into B, area of this triangle, which will be acting at a distance of B by 3, right? This will be B by 3. B by 3. So when the uplift pressure B is the base width of the dam, H is the height up to which the water is stored, the total uplift pressure act from the heel or the upstream end of the dam. So let me close this. Yeah. Let me go to the next slide. Yeah. So I told you this uplift forces can be reduced. Methods for reducing the uplift forces. One is, it is generally reduced by providing drainage pipes or holes in the dam section, which I already shown you in the diagram, and cut-off walls on the upstream face. So in the upstream face, if you provide a cut-off walls at the bottom, there won't be water head at the bottom. Constructing drainage channels. So instead of galleries, you can also provide drainage channels, and the pores can be grouted. The pores can be filled by pressure grouting the foundation so that the no water seeps into the body of the dam or to the foundation or at the contact surface between the foundation and the body of the dam. The next, we'll see the earthquake forces. So we discussed about the water pressure. One is the external water pressure and the other one is the internal water pressure. External water pressure is due to the water stored in the reservoir, which is in the horizontal direction, and internal water pressure is due to uplift force because of the water whichever seeps into the body of the dam, there will be difference in hydraulic gradient when it comes to out through the downstream side. So this difference in hydraulic gradient will cause this uplift force. This uplift force has to be reduced. Okay. That is about the internal water pressure. Now we'll see the earthquake forces. This is the second force, and it depends upon the location of the dam. So earthquake forces cause both the dam structure as well as the water stored in the reservoir to vibrate. It vibrates the water as well as the body of the dam. The force generated in the dam is called as the inertia force, and in the water body it is called as the hydrodynamic force. So force is generated on the body of the dam, that is called as the inertia force, and the force is generated in the water, that is called as the hydrodynamic force. So earthquake may move in any direction. So earthquake may be in any direction, but we have to consider for design purpose in two directions, vertical and horizontal. That is what we normally do for simplification. So we resolve the earthquake force into horizontal and vertical direction. The earthquake acceleration is usually designated as fraction of acceleration due to gravity. So this is acceleration due to gravity. It is multiplied by alpha, a seismic coefficient. So alpha is a seismic coefficient. So earthquake acceleration is expressed as alpha into g, where g is acceleration due to gravity and alpha is a seismic coefficient. So this value of seismic coefficient alpha depends upon the intensity of the earthquake. Depends on the intensity of earthquake, whether it is strong or a weak earthquake. So it depends on the intensity and zone of country in which the dam is located. So the country is divided into 5 zones. So where the dam is located, if the dam is located in an area where where it is a more earthquake prone area, so in that case this value of alpha will be different, and in area where the earthquakes are less, the value of alpha will be different. And it depends upon the elasticity of the material of the dam and its foundation, whether it is made up of concrete or masonry, like that. So next is this value of alpha is taken as zero point 0.1 to 0.15 for high dams in seismic zones. Okay, in extreme seismic regions, extremely, if the region is extremely seismic, then the value of zero point 0.3 may be adopted. So this, I told you, there are two forces. We will consider it in two four directions. One is in the horizontal direction and the other one is the vertical direction. This vertical acceleration reduces the unit weight of the dam material and that of water. Both the units weight it will reduce. The horizontal acceleration acting towards the reservoir causes momentary increase in water pressure and foundation, and the dam is accelerated towards the reservoir. So it will increase the water pressure, whatever pressure, whatever water is there in the reservoir, the water pressure will increase, and also the foundation and the dam is accelerated towards the reservoir because of this horizontal acceleration. So next, the third force which is acting is the silt pressure. So first we discussed about the water pressure, second we discussed about the earthquake pressure, and now the silt pressure. Silt get deposited on the upstream face of the dam. When the water, when because of the rainwater gets collected into a reservoir, it also brings the silt with along with it from the catchment area. The weight and the pressure of the submerged silt is to be considered in addition to the weight and pressure of water. So, along with the pressure of water and weight of water, which you have considered in two directions, that is horizontal water pressure and vertical weight of the water over the sloped surface, same way you have to consider the silt pressure also. The weight of the silt acts vertically on the slope and pressure horizontally, same like water. Weight will act vertically and the pressure will act horizontally in the same fashion to the corresponding forces due to water. it is recommended that the so for calculating this pressure, we should know the density of the silt. So the density of the silt is taken as 1360 kg per meter cube for calculating the horizontal pressure, and it is slightly taken more, 1925 kg per meter cube, when you are calculating the vertical force. Vertical force is due to the weight of the silt, so therefore this density is taken at a higher number. So if h is the height of silt deposited, small h is the height of the silt deposited, then the forces exerted by the silt in addition to the external water pressure can be represented by Rankine's formula. So we have, while designing this thing, Rankine's formula, this will consider while designing the um, retaining wall also, which you have already done in the previous semester. So Rankine's formula, pressure due to silt is half of the silt intensity of pressure at the bottom is gamma s into h, like water pressure. There we have taken it as gamma w into h. So where that was capital H, because capital H was considered as the depth of the water in the reservoir. So here it is half of gamma s into small h, where h, small h is the height of the silt deposited in the upstream side, into Ka. Ka is the coefficient of active pressure of the silt, which is taken as 1 minus sine phi divided by 1 plus sine phi. This will be acting at a distance of h by 3. This is the horizontal silt pressure. Then the submerged unit weight of the silt material that I have already told, which has to be taken as 1360 for calculating the horizontal pressure, and the h is the height of the silt deposited. Next, wave pressure. So as I told you, this is the fourth force which is acting on the gravity dam, one of the fourth force which acts on the gravity dam. So that is how what is this wave pressure? The waves are produced in the reservoir by the action of wind blowing on the surface. The force and the dimension of the wave depends upon the extent and configuration of the surface area of the reservoir. So how large is the surface area of the reservoir? Okay, or how small is the surface area of the reservoir? It depends upon the dimension of the wave, the force of the wave, and the dimension of the wave. The depends upon the extent of configuration, and it also depends on the depth of the reservoir and velocity of the wind. So this is the wave. This is the wave you can see in this diagram. So this is the wave. This is the wave. So here this will the total height of the wave is hw. So that is divided into two-third. This is the height of the crust and this is the height of the trough. So total height is hw, two-thirds of hw plus one-third of hw. Okay, one-third of hw. This is the maximum reservoir level, and this is the pw, the force due to wave. Force due to wave that is calculated using a formula. This will be acting at a distance of 3/8 of hw from MRL, from the maximum reservoir level, where hw is the height of the wave. So this acts on the vertical face of the gravity dam at a distance of 3/8 of hw. You have to remember this. Okay. Next is, and the pressure intensity Pw will be acting over a height of 5 by 3 Hw. 5 by 3 Hw, and this is the total force, whereas this is the pressure, wave pressure. This is the total force. The total force is acting at a distance of H by Hw by 3 by 8 Hw. Okay. Let's move to the next slide. Yeah. Wave pressure depends upon the wave height, which is the pressure of the wave, that is Pw, whatever force I told you there. It depends upon the wave height, which is given by this equation. You have to remember this formula. That is 0.34 root f plus 0.76 minus 0.26 fourth root of root f, where f is the fetch of the reservoir. That is the longest straight distance of the reservoir from the dam up to the farthest point of the reservoir. So you can see it depends upon the stretch of the reservoir. What is the farthest distance from the dam surface, that is upstream face, to the farthest distance of the dam to the farthest point of the reservoir. So if I take this, I will try to help. Yeah. So if this is the reservoir and if this is the dam, so this is the farthest distance. This is the farthest distance from the dam to the uh, farthest point on the reservoir. This is the reservoir where water is stored. So this is F. This is F. This is F. So, and HW is the height of the wave, which includes the crest to trough in meters. This should be in meters. When the fetch exceeds 20 kilometers, the above formula can be. So when the fetch is more, what happens? The height of the wave will reduce. When the fetch is less, the height of the wave will be more. So here you can see there are some additional expressions here, but here it is reduced to only the first expression, that is 0.34 root f. Root f. This is when the fetch exceeds 20 kilometers. Okay. Next is, since the height of the generated waves must be related to the wind and velocity. So height of the wave depends on wind velocity. Therefore, the original formula is modified by including this V. By including this V, where V is the wind speed along the fetch, because height of the wave depends upon the wind velocity. Wind speed. The pressure intensity PW, you have to remember this expression is given by 23.544 HW, where HW is the height of the wave. This is the pressure intensity. This is the pressure intensity. Whereas PW is the total wave pressure. Total wave pressure that will be given by 20 HW square, and its application is at a distance of 3/8 of HW above the sill water level. This I had already showed you in this diagram. You see here, this is the total pressure PW, which is acting at a distance of, which is equal to 20 20 HW square, 20 HW square, where HW is the height of the wave, which can be calculated by using the equation. And this is the pressure intensity. This pressure intensity will be acting for a height of 5/3 HW, where HW is the height of the wave, and height of the wave is calculated from this equation. It is different when the this thing f varies. When f exceeds 20, we are using this, and we can modify this by using v also, by adding v also, because HW depends upon the velocity of the wind. Next is the ice pressure. The ice which is formed on the water surface in the cold countries may sometimes melt and expand. So when it expands, it will the face of the dam will be subjected to thrust and exerted by the thrust is exerted by the expanding ice. The force will act linearly along the length of the dam at the reservoir level. This is at the top. This pressure, the ice thrust is only at the top, that is at the top reservoir level, because ice floats, and therefore the magnitude of this force varies from 250 to 1500 kilonewton per square meter, depending upon the temperature variations. On average, a value of 500 kilonewton per square meter may be taken under any ordinary circumstances. So you can remember this value. So 500 you can take for ordinary circumstances. Otherwise, it varies from 250 to 1500 kilonewton per square meter, and this thrust will be at the reservoir level only. And self weight of the dam, which is the most important one, because this by this self weight only it will resist all other forces which were discussed earlier. The dead load comprises of weight of concrete structure of the dam body. So you know the density of concrete is 2400 kg per meter cube. It's very huge. So since the cross section of the dam usually would not be simple, so you know cross section of the dam is not simple. It is made up of triangle, rectangles. So what we do is for analysis purpose we divide the section into several triangles and rectangles, and dead load of these sections are computed separately and then added up. For finding out the moment of the dead load, the moments due to separate subparts may be calculated individually and then summed up. The meaning is, one second. So if this is the dam section, so for calculating the self weight, what we do, we divide it into different. So if there's a batter here again, there will be one more triangle. Okay, so we'll calculate the weight due to this rectangular portion, weight due to this triangular portion, and weight due to this triangular portion. Like we have done for cantilever beam, the same procedure we have to follow here. So this will be acting at a distance of 1/3. Okay, so it's difficult for me to write here because there will be one more force here, so you can consider this W1, W2 and W3, and you can take the moment of all these forces about the heel. This is the heel and this is the toe of the dam. About the heel or about the toe of dam. So you can sum up W1 into X1, W2 into X2, W3 into X3. These are the resisting moments. Whereas you see this is the water pressure. This is the water pressure or the earthquake pressure, whatever other forces will be acting. Silt pressure, uplift pressure will be in the vertical direction. Uplift pressure will be in the vertical direction. This is the uplift pressure. Silt pressure will be in the horizontal direction. So this will cause moment like this in clockwise direction. Okay, whereas this will cause, if you take moment about the toe, this will cause moment in this direction. If you take about the toe, and this will cause moment in this direction, and this will cause moment in the opposite direction. So this will be anti-clockwise, whereas this will be clockwise. So some moments are clockwise and some moments are anti-clockwise, the depending upon at which point you are taking the moments. So this will end the this will end the session 1. So thank you. So well, in brief we discussed about what is gravity dam, what are the 7 forces that are acting on the gravity dam, and what are the nature of these forces. So thank you. Thank you.